Thank you all for being here. We have a special guest with us today, Reverend Helen Cummings. I bet you can guess which one of us that is. So I'm really looking forward to Reverend Helen sharing with us today. I met Reverend Helen through the Interfaith, but actually, when she first came to our city, Gary Solberg said, "You must meet Reverend Helen. Have you met Reverend Helen?" And he kept following me around saying, "You must have tea with Reverend Helen. You must." That sounded so Buddhist. So as it is, I did have tea with her this summer with my son, and we were privileged to sit in the Priory and have a meditation together. And I was just sharing with her how moment-changing that was, especially for my son. So I have so much to say about Reverend Helen, but I'll let her speak for herself for sure. And right now, just to kick us off and get our hearts open, we have our beloved Dalton sharing music with us today. Dalton.
Good morning, everybody. This song is a bit of an affirmation for you this morning. There at the table, with my head in my hands, a column of numbers I just did not understand. You said, add these together, carry the two. Now you can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. At a cold winter station, breathing into our gloves, it would change me forever, leaving for God knows what. You carried my bags, you said I'll wait for you. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. Late at night I call, and you answer the phone. The worst, it has happened, and I did not want to be alone. You quietly listened, you said we'll see this through. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. Here we stand breathless and pressed in hard times, hearts hung like laundry on backyard clotheslines. Impossible just takes a little more time. From the mighty ground comes a green volunteer. In a place we thought barren, new life appears. Morning will come whistling some comforting tune for you. You can do this hard thing. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing. It's not easy, I know, but I believe that it's so. You can do this hard thing.
and I swoon. I just love Dalton. So thank you. That's a perfect song for today. The message is going to be When the Road Gets Rocky. So I look forward to the inspiration and to the other music of today, because it really ties the whole message together and helps us live out our week ahead. So I'm Reverend Sue in service today, and Charlie Bourne is a practitioner, and Reverend Dr. Mary is also here for prayer support if you need that after the services. And right now we're going to wave to the people at home. Hello. Remember us? We're here. We're masked and we're safe and we're distanced. Yeah. Hello, everyone at home. Yeah. And while that's finishing up, we'll invite the children that are here today to come forward as we sing out our song to you. We have a couple of precious ones here. Teary-eyed for some reason. I've heard that song forever, but there are moments, there's a breakthrough. when your son hugged you, Christian, that was just like, oh, yeah, I just love it. Where am I? Okay, so I want to remind us, if we have a cell phone, to turn that off with respect for the rest of the program here. I'm going to offer, if there's any newcomers here, I know some people are visiting from the Priory, and we welcome you. And if you would like information from our center, we're happy to give you a packet. But if you're new here and you want to know more information, just raise your hand, and if not, there are on the wall in the back, and one of the ushers can get that for you. And we're going to go through a few announcements. I'm going to invite Mary up to talk about the Essence class, and then Cher Matthews will talk about what we're doing next weekend for SOAR and our guest speaker next week. Dr. Mary?
Well, once again, in alternating months, we are having a short Essence class after service. It'll be in the meeting room, and you get this really, really cool booklet, The Essence of Our Teaching, and I'll go over it for you with a little bit of history. In alternating months, we'll have a potential membership class, same time, every other month, about the history of the center, how we're organized, how we operate, and that's important. So those two little short classes are necessary if you want to become a member. So this is the first one we've offered this year because of COVID, and pretty exciting. So if you'd like to join me after service in the meeting room, please do.
Good morning. First, I want to say how excited I am to have Reverend Helen here. And if the road gets rocky, we'll just have rocky road on the road. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no preferences, but I prefer rocky road. We have a Super SOAR weekend coming up next week. And next weekend, SOAR, for those of you that don't know, it's our adventure group here at the center, and SOAR stands for Spirit of Adventure Renewed. So we're going to do Shasta Caverns on Saturday, and then we're going to two iconic things on Saturday. Shasta Caverns, the #1 most iconic adventure in Shasta County. And then we're going to go over to Shasta Dam, cross the dam, see the low lake levels, and then walk part of the Sacramento River Trail. And then on Sunday, Greg Tremar, who's coming from Ananda down in Grass Valley, is going to join us, and he's going to do a special workshop for us from noon to 3. He's going to do the 10 o'clock service and then the workshop after that. And then what's wonderful about listening to nature, I know we've all had those peak experiences where you're out in nature and suddenly you're at one with everything. He has practices that he's going to share with us that makes that really the uncommon become phenomenon. And that's exciting. So I hope you'll join us for a super sore weekend.
And then the other two small announcements, Chris Netto will be offering her Tai Chi on Thursday this week. It will start a new series at 10 o'clock on Thursday. And I will be doing a class starting at 3:30 on Wednesday. And this is a advanced spirituality class using the work of Greg Braden. And we're going to explore the power of the word as spoken through the ancient truths of Scripture. And it's a phenomenal book called Wisdom Codes that is available in the bookstore. And it's just a short series that we're going to explore this and deepen our understanding of how the power of prayer and the power of our word, indeed, just like our philosophy says, creates our experience. So please join us for that. And the last little bit is, if you are a woman and looking for the portal to your power, we're doing with Dr. Andrea Acevedo our Women's Retreat, October 22nd through the 24th. And you can talk to our board member. I call her Sage. You guys can call her that too. That's Amy back there. So she can take any of your questions and take some of your financial support for these different events, if you so choose, before you leave. So that's a nutshell there. Please take your little handout program with you. Did everybody get a bookmark? Okay, these beauties were created by Reverend Helen as a gift to you, and it's going to be part of our morning practice today. And maybe I'll have you explain that a little bit before we go into that, because in lieu of a reading, we are doing this beautiful chant. So let me tell you a little bit about Reverend Helen, just as I know her. She is the prior of the temple in our community known as the Redding Zen Buddhist Priory, and it's a temple of the Order of Buddhist Contemplatives, an international Buddhist order that is connected with the Shasta Abbey. A lot of you are familiar with the Shasta Abbey in Mount Shasta. Reverend Helen is the grand disciple of Reverend Master G.U. Kennett. She was trained in the Abbey for 20 years, and you will witness her gentle wisdom and way. It's just entirely comfortable and refreshing to engage with. She's one of the holy people that I've met that the robe didn't scare me, didn't make me feel clumsy and tongue-tied around her. She just smiles at you with these deep eyes, and then you just start telling her your life story, and you feel better because of it. So that being said, I'm going to have her come up briefly before she does her message to explain what we're going to do, and Lindy will be playing that chant for you. Reverend Helen, thank you for being with us.
And there are a lot of robes. So the words on that little card say gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. This is the mantra of the Heart Sutra, the wisdom of the Buddha, going on beyond, and always going on beyond, always becoming Buddha, hail. In lieu of a reading, I hope we can chant together for a little bit of time this, and Lindy has the tape that we can, at least in your heart, repeat the words. I know COVID prevents us from full full-throated singing, but take it in and let it just wash through you as we chant for now. Thank you.
The prayer has been sung as we awaken, as we allow ourselves to settle in to exactly where we are and who we are, and simply be fully present here, surrounded by a love that is forever flowing, forever embracing each and every one of us. So I give thanks today for the message of truth, as Reverend Helen Cummings shares with us a sincerity of her heart in what she knows has been a way and a truth that has guided her through all times. I give thanks for the visitors from her community that share this time with us, as we recognize that we truly are only one, that as an interfaith, we all support the one truth, the one love, the one beingness. So thank you, God, for this time together, for this rich sharing. And so it is. And you may speak. You can take your mask all the way off. There you go. There she is.
Thank you so much, Reverend Sue, and thanks to all of you for the opportunity to be here. I just am really delighted for all the joy and the energy that you bring to this morning, so thank you so much. Our traditional lecture verse starts like this: "The unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, we can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha." So, as Reverend Sue mentioned to you, my name is Reverend Helen Cummings. I'm a disciple of Reverend Master G.U. Kennett, a member of the Order of Buddhist Contemplatives, prior of the Redding Buddhist Priory, but most of all, I'm a monk in the Soto Zen tradition, the serene reflection meditation tradition. I understand that the topic on your calendar today is when the road gets rocky. But interestingly, the Buddha, some 2,500 years ago, addressed that very question. In his first sermon on turning the wheel of the Dharma, more than, as I said, 2,500 years ago, he addressed the question of rocky road, not the ice cream. And he said that the road is rocky all the time. We just aren't always aware of it. And we have the opportunity to take the steps that we need to take along the path in a way that will actually unfold a presence of compassion and kindness in the world. He taught the Four Noble Truths as a means of addressing the question of rocky roads, or in other words, the question of suffering. The first of the Noble Truths is that suffering exists. Dukkha, dissatisfaction, rocky roads, we come across them in every aspect of our daily life. Dissatisfaction or suffering, he said, is the hallmark of human existence. The second of the Noble Truths is suffering's cause. And he said, he gave it the term craving, but we know it better as I want or I don't want. When I want to hold on to something that can't be held on to, when I want to push away something that is, this is the cause of suffering. The third noble truth is that it is possible to end suffering. We can see clearly what suffering is. And when we do that, we have choices. And that is a fundamental part of our Buddhist practice. We have choices that allow us to go beyond the perceived suffering that we encounter on what we think are rocky roads. The fourth noble truth is finally that way through suffering is found actually on what the Buddha called the Noble Eightfold Path. In other words, the Buddha said, the road that is our human world, the world that we've been lucky to be born into, is fundamentally rocky. And this Noble Eightfold Path, in fact, the Four Noble Truths, point us to an alternative, improved, or at least well-traveled road. He taught that when we encounter suffering, and we will, we have a choice. We can trudge along that rocky road. We can do that. And we can complain and whine along the way. Or we can choose to step onto the Noble Eightfold Path. And this is a road that's been smoothed out by the steps of innumerable Buddhas, innumerable ancestors. Because of the truth of impermanence, anicca, the fact that everything changes, because of the truth of impermanence, we have the opportunity to constantly make a choice to go in the direction of reducing suffering. This is what the mantra that we sang is pointing to. We are always going on. We're always becoming Buddha. Every single moment by moment, we have the opportunity to choose that which reduces suffering. So as I thought about this talk this morning, I thought to myself, we can revise and rework these noble truths. The first noble truth I would offer to you is that the road is rocky. And, where we get into trouble is that because it's rocky, we are always bothered by it. We're annoyed by it. The truth is rocky, and I'm annoyed by it. That's the first noble truth. The second noble truth in these terms would be that the road is rocky, and I'm really annoyed by it because I want it to be something other than it is. I want things to be different. I feel like I'm entitled for things to be different. I think in the interests of fairness, things should be different. This is where we get into trouble. I don't want. The third noble truth is that there are, in fact, other pathways that we can take and other choices that I can make, other choices that you can make that result in our ability to navigate the road we're on, irrespective of whether there are boulders there or not. The Noble Eightfold Path is rich and wonderful teaching, and some of you may know about this already. I won't talk about it here now, but it's well worth exploring, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have that come out of this talk, either at the Priory or maybe after we finish here now. But the Eightfold Path, the steps of it cover the whole trajectory of our human existence. Right view, right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Each of these steps goes a long way towards reducing our suffering. And when we live fully in the mind of meditation and with the guidance of the Noble Eightfold Path, we find ourselves much freer, with less suffering than we might have thought. But the Buddha offered us a simpler starting point for a means of reducing suffering, and that's what I'd like to talk about today. The parable of the second arrow, some of you may know this, but it's rich teaching. It's simple, it's straightforward, and it helps us to deal with the rocky roads that we encounter. It helps us to deal with our suffering more skillfully. It's immediately useful in meeting the rocky roads of upset or disappointment. It helps us navigate frustration. Frustration at ourselves, frustration at others, frustration at the world, at COVID, at who knows what. The dissatisfaction that we have fundamentally when we want things to be different. The parable of the second arrow goes like this. The Buddha once asked a student, if a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful? And the student replied, yes, it is. The Buddha then asked, if the person is struck by a second arrow, is that even more painful? And the student again replied, yeah, it is. The Buddha then went on to explain, in life we cannot always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. And with this second arrow comes the possibility of choice. So, what are the two arrows in this story? The first arrow is the pain that it's unavoidable. None of us gets away from suffering. Dissatisfaction is a reality of our human realm. It's part of the human condition. We've all encountered it at some point in our lives. We're probably encountering it even as we speak. It hurts. It's the actual event, the physical pain, the loss of a dear one, the grief, the trauma, and even the little things, the little irritations, the person that's always late, the driver that doesn't yield. All of these are potential, well, they're the first arrow as far as we're concerned, and they give rise to the second arrow, which is the one that we ourselves shoot in response to that first arrow. Yeah, it sounds a little bit absurd. We shoot ourselves and cause suffering when we're trying to avoid suffering, but we do. That second arrow is our reaction to the first arrow. It's our insistence that we want things to be different, and we are in a position to insist that it be so. The second arrow, too, is oftentimes our judgment of the first arrow. It shouldn't be like that. It's not fair. Why is it happening to me when I've taken all the precautions that I've taken? And this is optional. The first arrow is painful. This is part of our practice to accept the things that are as they are. And the second arrow is optional. We do not have to respond in a way that further causes us suffering. We have a choice, and it's this choice on which the amount of time we spend suffering, the amount of bumps that we feel, and the sense of just winding down a road that's full of boulders. This is where we have an opportunity to understand that things can be different. The Buddha said again, in life we can't always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. The second arrow is optional. So the question arises, Do I really need to shoot that second arrow? I'm surprised myself how often the answer to that is yes, I do. And then I learn a lot. But in fact, here's the scenario. Imagine you're getting a headache and you're hit by an arrow. Could be that a migraine kicks in full bore. Could be 102 temperature. And there it is, the first arrow, the headache, or maybe even the COVID diagnosis. But the second arrow comes in how we choose to respond. So the first arrow is, I'm ill, I'm sick, I feel lousy. The second arrow is, this is just wrong. I had so much to do today. I can't afford to get sick. People will think that I'm a weenie. Any of the voices that we have that come by and just insist that things can't be this way. We don't have to shoot that second arrow. We can simply appreciate and accept that I'm sick. I'm sick. And do what needs to be done. Say you are diagnosed with COVID. Say you do take the test and it comes positive. The second arrow becomes, wait a second, I wear my mask all the time, I've gotten the vaccines. How is it that I have a COVID diagnosis? This shouldn't be happening to me, but it is. We don't have to shoot that second arrow. And this comes in other ways with our conversations that we have with people. Somebody may say something that we misinterpret, or we may interpret it correctly, but we don't have to respond in a way that causes suffering. It's important to take that first arrow in stride and to be honest about it. Yes, I'm sick. Yes, that person hurt me in what they said. Yes, the world is really in a bad way right now. It's important because we are going to respond, but we're not going to respond by shooting an arrow that further deepens our suffering. I can take the step that allows me to accept the reality of things as they are, the reality of our family, where somebody may not speak to another over money, over choices, whatever that might be. The reality of our work. How many difficult situations do people encounter because of the changes COVID, in fact, asks of us? The reality of the injustices in the world at all levels, locally, state level, nationally, and internationally. So much suffering, so much. Do I add to it by making a judgment about it? It's really important also to realize that we have to accept the reality of our own hearts, that we can realize that we are tired of this, that we are weary with all that's gone on in terms of COVID. We have to accept the reality of our own hearts, that we're afraid and that we want to close down. Now more than ever, we have the opportunity to not shoot that second arrow, which has a kind of contractive quality to it, but to open our hearts more fully. In my own practice, I try as much as possible to only deal with the first arrow. I try as much as possible to refrain from shooting that second arrow. There's already enough suffering to go around it, and as far as possible, I try to limit what I bring, not only to the world, but to my own life. We know the experiences of whining and looking around for other people to commiserate with. What's the phrase? Misery loves company. But when we complain, when we whine in that way, we're actually shooting a second arrow, because things are as they are, and why do I have to keep repeating them and re-emphasizing them and reliving them? I've always found it interesting that the word resentment comes from the two Latin words that mean to feel again. We keep the feeling alive. We keep the poison going through our bodies. We don't have to do that. We know the grim burden of carrying around increasing frustration. It gets heavier and heavier. We feel it in our stomach aches, in our back aches, in our migraines. Our body knows what it needs to do. We've all stumbled along that rocky road. We've all created suffering. And we hate each step. We know we don't like it. We don't have to do it. So to avoid the second arrow, let me offer 3 steps. You have to notice the first arrow. Be honest and aware of the hurt, the emotional pain, the sensation of it. Recognize what is happening in your life. Don't shy away from it. See it as clearly as you can, without expectations. See what's there, not what you want to be there. Second, notice what your emotional reaction is. This is that moment of pause, that quick second where instead of, because you've noticed that you are angry and are about to spill out with some rough words that you may regret, you have the option to see what your emotional pull is and gently bring it back. We can catch our impulses if we are able to, in kindness and gentleness, notice where we are moving towards and stop it before we get there. Before we start to complain, before we start to lash out in an angry way, we can stop, recognize it, and make a choice to, in our tradition we'd say, offer merit for the situation, but to look at and see how you can bring gentleness or kindness into that moment. And thirdly, and it goes hand in hand with the second one, ask yourself, do I really need to shoot that second arrow? It's great if you can get it before it leaves the bow. And sometimes we'll have the opportunity to see it just after we've left it, and agree that yes, it probably would have been wiser not to shoot it. All of this is a process of growing awareness so that we become more conscious of how we respond to life. And what the Buddha is pointing to in this parable is that we have a choice about how we can respond, and we can respond with gentleness. We can respond with consciousness and mindfulness. And of course, this is where meditation is so important. In whatever form you might use, it is so critical to be able to bring the mind of meditation into the rest of your life. In our tradition, our sitting place is where we see more clearly what our mind is doing, to be able to see what our stack of arrows is at any given time and see how many of them we've shot and why. We're able to, when we do that, when we see that, we're able to do what needs to be done, what truly needs to be done, not the development of a story or a drama or any of that sort of thing, but what's the true response required here that will, as far as possible, eliminate additional suffering. In our tradition, we distinguish between natural thoughts, the thoughts that just come and go as part of what a brain does, and deliberate thought, which is what we hold on to and shape. We get caught up in, we develop the story, we set out and have a real control, if you will, over what we pay attention to and what we don't. It's so important to see how we hold on to karmic patterns, old habits, memories from the past, cultural traditions, judgments, feelings, expectations. it's important that we see them. Not that we push them away, but we see them and we see how we can be driven by them, how we react rather than respond to them. Our meditation practice is a practice of making space, and I think that's what the Buddha is pointing to, that when we have enough space, we can avoid the boulders, or we don't have to walk through them at least. When we are in a place where we can spaciously accept everything that comes into our lives, see it for what it is, not push it away, we have the important and incredible opportunity to just keep walking on the road, whether it's rocky or not. Enjoy, approach it with the mind of a geologist. Take the rocks, look at them, see what they can teach you. There's some wonderful, wonderful opportunities to be held in the situations as they occur in our lives. In closing, we'll just leave you with 3 points. Take this teaching, if you can, to heart, and just look at the first and second arrows that you have in your quiver. Secondly, be alert to the tendency that we all have to just let go with that second arrow whenever we can. And the third is to be gentle as you walk. Realize there are rocks in the road. We can't expect it to be otherwise. This is the realm of human existence. But we can walk mindfully, kindly, gently, and learn not only from the rocks around us, but we can learn from all those who are traveling this path with us. In fact, some of those people turn out to be some of the bigger rocks that we might encounter. But again, we have the opportunity, when we see things as they are, to recognize how lucky we are to be in a human realm, able to be together and connected as we all are. So I'll end by offering homages to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And then may I suggest we offer the merit of our time together to all beings with a traditional Buddhist dedication of merit. So I'll ask Lindy if she'd be so kind.
Share the fruits of peace.
Thank you, one and all, for your attention and your kindness this morning.
I sometimes don't know me, and there you are to show me. You hold the child inside, the man I've longed to be. And in my darkest nights, you're the light so I can see. All that I am is magic, created before time began. Oh, how I love the way you love all I am. Who am I to question all the gifts I've been given? And now the part of me I didn't want to face has become the very thing that gives me strength. All that I am is magic, created before time began. Oh, how I love the way you love all I am. What a wonderful thing to realize. I find myself looking in your eyes. All that I am is magic, created before time began. Oh, how I love the way you love all I am is magic, created before time began. Oh, how I love the way you love all I am. You show me how to love all that I am.
I want to be Judy's groupie with Dalton. Maybe I'll try out, huh? He's performing around town, so if you want to know where he's performing, we'll need to let him know and get his email. He has a new email. So that was lovely. Thank you. And you. Thank you. That was rich, really rich. I was like pulling second arrows out each time she's, oh, it does hurt more. It's just so good. So I wanted to, these beautiful flowers were in honor of Twyla Cooley. We had her service here Friday, and this is a gift in honor of her from Sally Foster and Barbara Olson. And aren't they beautiful? So Twyla's with us today in the form of these beautiful flowers, so we appreciate that. And in the social hall, you get to partake of some of the cookies that were left over. Oh my God, Unity Church makes the best homemade cookies. And so there's some left over in there for you to enjoy with some coffee, perhaps. So the Essence class that Dr. Mary's going to be doing, you go down the hall and to the office area, and there's a little meeting room in there if you want to join Mary there, get your cookie and join her. And it's 11 now, Mary. About what time? 11:15, so that gives you some time to relax and maybe bombard you with 1,000 questions. So, and again, we're available for prayer support if that's something that is stirring in you, you'd like some support for your greater good. So again, thank you for the gifts that you leave us with and the wisdom that we will continue to chew upon and grow from forevermore. The closing song now we'll enjoy.
Are we doing an offertory?
Oh, that would be good. Arrow. Janet. Will the ushers come forward? And that would be lovely to have an offertory. We sure can use the money support here. Embarrassing. We have Janet running the show today with her cohorts. Doug and Ronnie took a weekend away. So let's hold your blessing and recognize that gratefully I give with an attitude of abundance. If you would like to share that thought. Gratefully I give with an attitude of abundance. For I know as I give, I do receive.
For I know as I give, I do receive.
And so it is.
So it is.
Abundantly.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. Come on forward, ushers. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. Once more. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
Would you be so kind to offer a blessing for the monies received?
We must think deeply of the ways and means by which these offerings have come. We must consider our merit when accepting them. We must protect ourselves from error by excluding greed from our minds. We will receive them with gratitude, lest we become lean and die. we accept this offering that we all may become enlightened. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha, and thank you all for the grace and gift that is your community and congregation.
All right, the ushers are excused, and now we get to have another beautiful song, right? You remember how it goes. Yeah, you can work here again if you want. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, everybody, why don't we stand on up here? It's time, establish some space around yourselves. Yeah, exactly, that's the noise. It's time to bring us out of this wonderful contemplative little space that we've created in here into the glorious sunshine of the rest of the day. And remind ourselves there was a time in my life I thought I'd have to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, well, you've got to let it go, let it all go. And this is what you have to say. You know how this part goes. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Well, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. Well, no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. One more time now. Well, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. Well, no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light.